Hey there, Pop. Another episode of the Popcorn Wind Down. I'm Eddie.
And I'm Tammy.
Thank you for joining us. This week's episode is brought to you by CAS. If your life is a hot mess and you need it fixed, then check us out here at CAS. People around you playing checkers while you're trying to play chess, give us a call at CAS. Allow us to advocate for you. For more information about the services we provide and or to schedule a full consultation, check out checkersnotchess.fix. Tammy, would you like to have a life fixer?
I don't have enough drama in my life for a life fixer. Like, they be bored out of their mind just taking my money for fun.
I would like to have a fixer. It's not necessarily that I have enough drama, but just the shit that happens when drama occurs, like the hot mess, like your own personal Ayana slash hitter. Yeah, fix my life, damn it. I would like that because they not only seem to fix it, but they make shit happen too. That's yeah. I would go for a fixer slash hitter. I would. Okay. Oh, which brings us to this week's episode. This week we get the privilege of being allowed into the room where it happens and get a first-hand glimpse of how many eggs have to be broken to make the perfect omelet as we follow Hwang Do-Hee, aka the Queenmaker. Though he starts off as the corporate fixer for one of the largest conglomerates in Korea, where she works exclusively for the Son family. After a tragic accident for which she personally feels responsible, she parts ways with the Songs and the Yuson Corporation and goes to work for their arch nemesis, Oh Kum-suk, a headstrong civil rights attorney in an attempt to make her Seoul's first female mayor. So, Tammy, what did you think of The Queenmaker? Was it a Fortune 500 hit or a bankrupt waste of time?
I love your analogies. Um, it started off slow. I will say that about Queenmaker. And like my mom was the one who told me to watch this, and she was just like, "It's so good, it's so good. I've watched it more than once." I will say it started off slow, and thinking it's like my mom already co-signed it, so I stuck with it. And by the second or third episode, I was like, "Okay, I want to see where this is going." Because it was like around the time where like she gets fired, and I forget if that's the second or the third episode. But when she gets fired from her strategy job, I was just like, oh shoot, it's about to go down because this woman know all y'all secrets. So so yeah, so it didn't pull me in automatically, but it was intense. It was intense. What about you?
I agree. It's probably about the second or third episode that it picked up. I had it on my list, and I remember it was on our list. It was on their list, and we discussed it as we were having our meeting. Look at us making us seem big time. As we were having our corporate popcorn wind down meeting, our strategy meeting, we had decided originally to do another show instead of this, but that one got canned really quickly. And we were trying to figure out where to do the Queenmaker, so we just moved it up. And so I remember I said, "Oh yeah, the Korean version of Scandal, right?" Because just reading the blurb, that's what it seemed like, and watching that little trailer that flicks up on Netflix. And so when I first started watching it, I was homesick. I know I sound more nasally and whiny than I normally do, pop star, so that's why. Um, and so I just watched it, and I remember we were talking about it, and you said your mom binged it, and I was like, okay. In the 3 episodes, I'm like, well, I'm sick. I have nothing else to do. But if it doesn't pick up after this, we may have to reschedule. And I was like, yeah, it did. It gave Scandal slash How to Get Away with Murder. Like I didn't realize how much I missed those shows until this one. So it did go a little bit more into the backstory initially in those first 3 episodes. I guess it built the world, or it laid the foundation. But after that, like you said, once she quit slash resigns, gets fired, whatever the fuck you want to call it, oh, it's off and running. And I'm like, yeah. And after that, I binged. Of course, being homesick, but I did binge it. I got it done in one day, and I was like, oh yeah, it was good. Um, did you like Do-Hee? Like, what did you like about it? What kind of different from it?
I think I really, really like the sisterhood of it. I like the feminism on display. Because that is a very, very controversial topic and idea within South Korea.
Shit, it's
On
controversial here.
Well, it's controversial here, but I
I know
think
what you're
that
saying. I know what you're saying.
we're still able to like really come out and like say it and find our people, right? And it's not like people are hiding that they believe in gender equality and everything like that. But I think in South Korea, it's more of a hidden thing because it can destroy careers. Like here, you identify yourself as a feminist, it's not destroying your career. Um, but unless your career is to be against women, I don't know. But in South
Republican
Korea,
Party. My bad.
but in South Korea, that can destroy careers. Like they have had campaigns against idols who have come out and said that they've read feminist literature and everything like that. That is feminist leaning. So I like the idea of that. Oh Young Suk was like she's a feminist and she's all about women, women, women. It was all about fighting for women's rights, women laborers, women workers. Like it wasn't about men. It wasn't about just workers in general. It was about women workers, female workers, and what they needed, and fighting for that cause. And so I really, really like that. That was on display, as well as the sisterhood between her and Hwang Do-Hee. Like when Hwang Do-Hee was like, "Okay, I'm gonna make you the mayor of Seoul," and she was just like, "Okay, like yeah, right," and she's just like, "Oh no, I'm gonna make you the mayor of Seoul," and they developed that bond with each other, and I just thought that that really really carried the show was the bond that they had with each other. Like we see it in a couple of scenes. Like we see it in a scene where Wang Do-hee doesn't even tell them about what happened to her dad, and then Oh Young Soo shows up and to show her support and everything like that, or so it's those scenes where she needs the support, and she was silently there just supporting her, along with her supporting her with the whole situation with her son. So yeah, I really love the sisterhood. I think that definitely made the show more interesting and kept me engaged with it. Just the bond that they had.
Yeah, I agree. I loved how, and you're right, because when they first met, oh Young Soo called her Toilet Wong. That was her nickname that she given to her virally. She called this woman Toilet Wong, and then when she threw
Just
a
clean up
bucket
the
full
shit for
of,
her company.
yeah, and then when she threw like when Oh Young Suk at the beginning, when she was basically protesting slash living on top of the Yusung Corporation, and she had her little makeshift outhouse, which was a bucket, and she threw that bucket on her. I'm like, oh no, this bitch didn't see. Like me, I would have pushed the bitch off the building in, like for real. You know I would have. Like there's no way I could have let that stand. Like But I did. I love the way that the bond grew, and it grew naturally. Where because at one point she was like, "I will work with you, but I will never trust you," and you see that at first it becomes a meeting of just two people with the same goal, which was to bring down the Yusung Corporation. Um, to them being necessarily working together because it was the enemy of my enemy at this point. To them naturally and organically building this sisterhood, this bond, this family where they come to trust each other. And I love that. And like you said, it was very natural and organic progression, because just from the beginning, it could have gone either way. Like you could have seen it being um, her where they came to an understanding where they got along better, but they didn't necessarily become as close as they did, and it still would have been okay because of how it started off and just because they were so vastly different. But yeah, and so I love that. I also love the fact that, like you said, they were dealing with issues that you don't normally see in Korea. And like I said, like, feminism, Me Too, all of that is still very controversial here. As much as we like to say we're not, they're trying to push us dragging and screaming back into the 50s and the Stone Ages and all that shit. But in Korea, they're just now starting to come out of it and deal with it more. And so I love that. I love that they were talking about sexual harassment and rape in the Me Too movement, and that women's issues were front and center in this drama, and the things that happen to women. And as you notice, a lot of the women, even the villains, there were very few men in here, and the men were the co-stars. Even Peck, who becomes like a grade A villain, you can't even necessarily say he's the big bad. That role goes to the whole fucking Song family because those bitches were batshit. Like the whole family, it was just with them. It was a matter of pick your fucking poison. Like who do you want to fuck you up today? Like how bad do you want to be fucked up? Because they were all just horrible. But I have to agree with that, and I love that. The one thing I will say about Korean dramas, the more we watch them, um, I love that they subtly, in some cases, and we've talked about this before, the subtle ways that they deal with romance. I get it. In some instances, you don't always need it to be gratuitous and all up in your face. But and in some dramas they do better with others. This one, I think that they missed an opportunity. I love the relationship between Yo Dong Hee, Young, I can't even say her name now, Hwang Do-Hee, and the investigator dude. Like I'm just gonna call him Jack because I don't remember his name, but he was basically like the jack of all trades. He was kind of like Yo Kun Suk's little brother. I get the feeling that she represented him, kept him out of jail, got him out the life. You know, because he was all about that life. You can take the life, you can take a boy out the life, but sometimes you can't take that life out the boy. And he was still all about that life, just for a different cause at this point. But Jack, I thought their little flirtation, it was so cute, and I was just like, oh, like and so I think that they missed an opportunity not to necessarily make it front and center, but to pull on those threads a little bit more. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. She would have eaten him alive.
You think so? I think
Yes.
in the mo- I think in the moment. I think honestly, I think he would have surprised us. I think he could have held her. I think he could have held his own with her. I honestly do. I do.
He did like nah. Like
I
he was
think
uni. Like she was uni. Like I think that yeah, you get that vibe, but I feel that because I understand what you're saying. Because at the beginning, I thought that was gonna be like a side story, like a background story, where all of a sudden like, but the fact that I don't think that he was on her level. She would eat him alive. He wasn't on her level. And even if he would have been a fun time for her. Um,
and that would have been okay. I mean, honest, I'm not saying end game. I'm not. That's not what I mean at all. Sometimes you just need that fun time. Sometimes it's just the time and the place, the right person at the right time in the right place. Not everybody in your life is meant to be end game. So that's not what I mean at all. Like, but do I think that they could have explored that flirtation? That they missed the moment by not, like you said, not making it a front and center story. It would have been a good little cute side story, but yeah, I don't necessarily. I didn't want him. I didn't envision him as being in game, but just as something, to kind of loosen her up a little bit. You know what I'm saying? But yeah,
I actually liked the vibe of her and her ex-husband because I wish I had found out more history of what led them to get divorced and why he was still on the contact list for her father. And like I like that vibe because that means he was always in politics. Like, did they break up because she went to go work for the unsung group? Like, how did that necessarily work? I like the vibe of that. I thought that that was a direction that would have been a natural progression of that between her and her ex-husband, kind of seeing like at least giving us a little bit more of a background story of why they ended up getting divorced, why they ended up leaving each other. So I was more interested in that. And I think it was because like at the beginning, I saw the vibe between her and Jack. I saw the vibe between her and Jack. But as the story went on, I really did. I was just like, oh no, I don't want them together because she would eat him alive. Like he would not survive that. Like he wouldn't be able to handle her. But then as it keep going and they introduced her ex-husband, and I was just like, okay. I felt she needed more of a maturity, and established, someone who was established in their career, who had their own thing, who wouldn't hold her back, but didn't necessarily need her support or didn't need her to back them up. And I felt like Jack, that would kind of be the vibe that, again, I know you said like it wouldn't be a forever thing, but I feel like it would be a pause, and she didn't have time to waste on a pause kind of thing. But I would have liked to see like I would have liked to see more of the backstory between her and her husband and how they ultimately ended up on opposite sides, and how that whole vibe went. Like there was just so much history there, that they did not address in the show at all. So I was more interested in that than I was in her and Jack kind of playing around with that chemistry that they had, because I think it was the chemistry more than necessarily the characters. They had really really good chemistry.
They did, and and like I get what you're saying, but like I said, just for a time and place type thing, it could have been fun. Even and I guess this is where the American ideas come in, and how we do things a little differently. He could have even been a good just stress relief, like one of those things that happens just because it's a moment of grief and you need somebody, and just see how they continue to be friends. Because I beg to differ a little bit. Like you said, I do agree he wasn't long term, he wasn't in game, but just a good person to be there. And I think just because of the way he talked to her, the way he was around her, like he was one of the few people who kept her on her toes. And I think that was intriguing. Like the whole thing with the shoe, when they first met, and they did have excellent chemistry. So, but the ex husband, to address that, I think, and I'm with you on that. I did want their friendship, not necessarily that I wanted to see them back together either, but I did like that you could tell that they still obviously cared for each other, and they addressed it very vaguely. Um, I forgot what episode it was. I think it was when they first introduced him, or one of the conversations that they had. He was like, I think the fact that her job, that she was so dedicated to her job at the Unsun group, you kind of got the feeling that she was Annalise Keating, where she put that above all else, and that interfered with her marriage. And you also got the idea that at the time when they were married, he was a bit more principled than he turned out to be now. And it's just like a really quick conversation. But I'm with you. I would have loved to see more history. And I think that during that time, because of what she was saying about her dad, I think her and her dad weren't really that close, and that he was probably closer to her ex-husband. So I think if anything just ever happened, then she knew her husband would be, her ex would be there to care for her dad. And that's just what I'm assuming. But yeah, I'm with you. I would have loved more backstory on them and their relationship, and what necessarily went so wrong with them. Um, so I loved, speaking of relationships, I loved, oh, what's her name? Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm just
Oh
gonna
yeah,
call her O. I loved O's relationship with her husband. I thought they were so cute, and he was
yes,
such a good guy.
he
And
was,
and
and he
he was a little,
loved her, loved her.
he loved her funky draws. Like
Yeah.
he was such a good guy. And like, and what really gave it to you, what really, like, not only the scene in the hospital when she quote unquote fell, you can see me putting my air quotes, when she fell off the building, but when she come to the decision or the conclusion that she was going to run for mayor of Seoul, that morning breakfast, her son freaked out, and we get to see that he's not necessarily just being your typical teenage brat, but he has his reasons. Um, but I love just his response, how you thought, okay, he was going to go off like his son, because they did. They both had legitimate complaints. Like, even if her son was being a just your typical teenage brat, he had a legitimate complaint, because I forgot when it was, but she said it herself, that because of her job, she had been a shit wife and a shit mom. And so by her throwing herself into this campaign for mayor, her son was, it was like, oh God, here we go again. Now you're going to have even less time for me. And her husband, just when you're thinking that he's going to say the same thing, like, when is it going to be our time? When are you going to put us first? He goes into the kitchen. He's like, no, this is not going to do. I can never let you back in the kitchen again. This soup is too soupy. It doesn't have enough flavor. And I was just like, oh, hashtag goals. I was just like, oh my God. Because, like,
Did you want
legitimately,
someone like that to like you thinking like you about to break up or something like that, and he's just like, no, baby, like you can't cook.
yeah, like, I know you meant well, like, thank you. And it was just like, just the support. And then when she just goes in and she starts hugging him and gives him like a loogie, and they just have this little moment. And I'm like, now that, like that, and that they just like typical couples, just typical, there are moments when they argue or they don't necessarily see eye to eye, but in that moment, just him being present and knowing what she needed and knowing her so well, and that whole idea of him realizing who he married from the beginning, like, yeah, she's changed in little ways, but her purpose, her goal, what she would do, like, to him, that just seemed like a natural progression from who she was. Like, it was like, okay, this is going to be hard, but we got this. And I love that. So yes, who wouldn't want that, it was just like, yeah. So I loved her husband, and I loved their relationship. um and it was so great. But her son, what did you think about that? Did you think they were going to make him into the typical brat that we see?
I didn't think he was a brat. I didn't. I thought he was very justified in his reaction. You have a parent who is never there, who you do love, and you can see that he loved his mom, but he had to put up with a lot. And I feel that while her husband also had to put up with a lot, he was an adult. He signed up for it. Like, you clearly tell that he married her knowing exactly who she was.
Hmm.
And with her son, it's like he'd been trying to figure this shit out for so long. And he was a typical teenager on how, like, he reacted to the fact that his mom was never there. He was basically being taken care of by his dad. But the little things that lets me know that he wasn't a brat was like when his friends, who he had really good friends, well, at least at the beginning, then we'll talk about what happens later. But his friends, when they start praising his mom and saying like, oh, she's gonna do great, and then all of a sudden he's just like, yo, follow me. And they're like, yo, where are we going? And then they helped him. He went to go fix his mom's, like, they went around and was fixing his mom's posters and fixing her whatchamacallit, and fixing her banners and stuff like that. And I was just like, wait, so you got your mom thinking that you mad, but then behind the scenes, everything that you do is in support of her. Um, so I don't know. Like, I think as time went on, you really get to understand where he was coming from. And it wasn't necessarily like, I think he was justified in his reaction and just typical teenage like angst on how they react to adults making decisions and them not having an input in it. At some point, and not really hearing what he has to say. Like, he knew no matter what I say, like, you're gonna do what you do. Like, it doesn't matter. He finally tells her that, and he's just like, well, then go out and make the world that you promised me you would make. Like, that's it. Because I can tell you I don't want you to go out and do it, and you're still gonna do it. So then you need to promise me that you will end up completing this mission that you set forth, because you've missed so much of my life in order for this mission. So now you need to fulfill it, so that I can enjoy the world that you spent my whole entire life trying to create. And I don't know, like, I just feel like in the end, I understood where he was coming from on his reactions to a parent who basically wasn't raising him. Like,
Yeah.
he knew that was his mom, but she wasn't raising him.
Yeah, and like you said, justified too in his response. But sometimes uh, when I say brat, and I'm glad that he was more layered than them turning him into the teenage brat, because at that moment you have that trope. Do we turn him into the rebellious little asshole because his mom is not there? Do we turn him into the kid with mommy issues? justifiably so, because like we both said, she wasn't there, she knew she wasn't there. Or do we see, and that's where I'm like, okay, instead of like when he said follow me, it was like, okay, is he going to lead them into trouble? Is he going to show them the things that he does to rebel? Is he going to take them and go off about? But no, it's like, oh, like you said, he is, he is listening, he hears it, he sees it, he is aware, you know. And I think one of the best thing, and then when he tells her, when the neighborhood, when he comes, excuse me, I'm congested, sorry. Um, when he comes to her defense, when the market has turned on her, and she's like, and she's still telling him to be respectful, and he's like, how can you respect the people who's turned on you? You spent all this time down here defending them, and they are not defending you, they're turning on you, they're treating you like shit. Like, what is that? Like, you can get it. It's like that teenage angst, and also a little bit of, because I was with him, I'm like, okay, homie, that turn the other cheek shit is gone a little bit too far, you know. um and so in moments like that. But ultimately, it was the scene in the jail. That's what I'm like. Yes, like if you did not know, if you did not know who your son was, if you were concerned about how he has been raised and your input in his life, it is when he tells her, when she's like, I will drop out. And he's like, no, like you've got to make all this worth it. Like I can spend some time in here if I know you fulfill your promise to me, like, kind of what you just said, like, now this is when you need to show me that the world that you're trying to build, this is when I need to see it. Like, we did not come this far just to come this far, you know. And so I thought, wow, like, okay, lady, if you don't know your son is just as kick-ass and awesome as your husband at this point, and how much he truly loves you, then so I really love that. Like, I love that they did not turn him into that typical bratty, constantly rebellious teenager. I loved how they balanced his angst and his natural and his justifiable anger and hurt with her in their relationship, and to him actually still being a good kid. And sometimes I think that especially when it comes to teenagers, is not always balanced properly. So I loved her family dynamic, and I loved how we kind of discussed it, how Young Do-Hee becomes just a natural extension of that family. So I loved it all. And his friends, like, and that was typical teenage shit too. Like, would you sell your friends out for some gaming currency?
I don't play games, but no.
Oh my goodness. If you were if you were a gamer.
No. Because
I
okay,
know.
but here's my thing. I don't understand, because I'm not a gamer. I don't necessarily think that I can honestly answer that question, or think of myself as a gamer, right? Because when you talk to people who play games, like, that currency is a big deal, right? Like, to know that, because it's so expensive to upgrade all of your stuff so that you can, I want to say win the game, but I feel like winning the game is the wrong word. Is there another word? I don't know. But I feel like they don't use winning the game. But so, in order to win the game, like, that costs money, and when you probably don't have necessarily the money and you're not able to gain it as quickly, that can be a big deal for you, especially because in certain cultures, gaming is a big deal. Like, it's as addictive as like gambling, right? That you can get into debt trying to, because you continuously play games and you're trying to like win stuff and everything like that. So I don't understand that. I can't say that I would give up my friends for game coin, because I wouldn't, because I don't understand the importance of that. But then I don't have the addiction to it, where that is my life, that is my outlet on how to get through it. I don't think I have an outlet that's to the point where I would sell out my friends in order to gain that money. Like, that's crazy to me. But so yeah, I could never be on the side of any of his friends who turned their back on him for some game coin. Like, where's the
Yeah.
loyalty? Where's the
Like,
loyalty?
even as a gamer, as a person who plays games, I couldn't do it. Even the teenage me, and I'm going back and I'm thinking about it, and it's like, My real friends, like my ride or dies, my A1 for day ones, my high school clique, my crew in high school. No, but just an acquaintance, someone on the outside of crew. Oh yeah, I'm yeah, fuck it. But
Wait, to post that picture
oh no, no, that's still there's like that would still be beyond me. But just thinking, but it seemed just kids today and where they are and um how tilted their moral compass is, and they don't really necessarily. Some of them, I'm not going to say all,
most of them.
don't
I'm gonna
don't
say
think
most.
don't seem to think things through about the consequences and the long term effects.
Hmm.
And they see things as a joke, like they don't think of the real world consequences when it comes to shit like that, the internet, uh, the pictures going viral and all that. I see that being very realistic, and I said, oh, those are not your real friends. Like y'all cannot go back to being friends. And when homeboy was like, but I did nothing, I'm like, I know we didn't know the full extent of what he did, but I'm like, I know he did not get his ass kicked like that for doing nothing.
Yeah,
You know,
like there's no way
like
he
you had
he
to have
beat you
done
to a pulp.
something. Yeah, because at that point in the series, we were still on edge. We were still kind of not sure which way her son was going to go. If he was the rebellious asshole who was angry at the world, or if he was, But by then you had started figuring out some of the things of and where he was. And
It
so
was
it
just
was
when you
just,
saw his face. Like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
I know you're good.
Now I was gonna say, like, it was seeing his face. Like when it was just his son, I said, did he go crazy? Like, what is going on with him? But when you saw the friend's face, I said, what did he do?
Hmm.
Because like he beat the crap out of this kid. And I said, and it didn't look like just we would just fight each other. And then when he said, I didn't do anything, I said, no, you did something. I didn't know it was to the extent that it ended up being, but I thought it was, he said something about his mom and he snapped. Like I thought he was saying stuff about his mom and he snapped. I didn't realize, it was to the extent where you were posting stuff, false stuff about his mom and, basically sexual stuff about his mom. And that's what made him snap. And then to see that he'd been bullied online, that's a whole nother culture that I don't understand as well. On this whole you can destroy a person's life for no reason at all with just a few words, right? Or you can drive a person to suicide with just a few words. And I think this show showed me how toxic that culture is more than I'd seen in other shows that I've watched. How toxic, because there's a reality to what they did in this show and how they destroyed people and reputations and changed people's mind at the drop of a hat. And granted, I'm not saying that our media doesn't do the same thing. And it could also be because I do research myself and, I'm educated enough to understand that there's more that goes into it to see the truth in certain things. But the toxicity of their media, like it's crazy to me. You know what it reminds me of? Korean media. It reminds me of what happened to Meghan Markle.
Hmm.
On how, because the media had a unwritten contract with
And
the
what's
royal,
still happening to her,
yeah,
like
and yeah, with the royal family, that they it was an unwritten thing with the royal family, that they were able to run amok over this woman's life, all because she fell in love with a prince. And they were able to run amok over her life. And I saw that in this show, on how the media works to just run amok over people, completely. Like they were changing their minds on a drop of a hat. It's like one day they hear this, they're against the next day they hear this, now they're for And I said, are you serious?
Fox, like
Like you ain't got no stance? Like no real morals? I said these are people with fake morals, because you were willing, a woman who had spent her entire life, her entire career fighting for women's rights. And at the drop of a hat, you hear one thing and you automatically turned your back on her
Yeah,
and you
it's
act
like,
like everything that she done up until then was nothing. Like that just eliminated all of her work and dedication. And I was just like, what the fuck kind of it just boggled my mind, but it's the truth. It's how it's too many shows. It's that show that how Korean media works for it not to be true. It's
yeah, it,
too much based in reality. And that is scary. I'm going to say real scary on how the media works with corporations and is not there for the poor. It's crazy to me on how at least ours pretend that they're for the poor. But in Korea, nah, not at all.
yeah, like, and just kind of make a point. There's this video currently going around. It's viral, and it's of the Lakers. It's done at the game two of the Lakers Memphis series basketball, and this one dude in the stands beating the brakes off this dude, like just beating him, and everybody around them, no one is trying to stop the fight. So all the comments are like, "What the fuck did he say? That no, that they just letting this man get his ass beat like that." And when the dude finally stood up and got in between them, it looked like because security was coming. Like he let him beat him on top of him at one point, and it was like, what the fuck did he say? Like he said the wrong thing to the wrong one at the right time. Like he made time in the middle of a playoff basketball game to beat his ass. And so that was my thought when homeboy like I didn't do anything. I'm like, nah, you did something. And then like with the media thing, it's like faux news, you know, all
Mm-hmm.
of that shit. And then the group, that Moms for Liberty crew, stupid ass group that's all for being in books and shit, right? They were given a platform on CBS Morning News, and they framed them as just concerned fucking parents. So it's like it's more subtle here, but the media, like mainstream media, is a motherfucker, and the way they try to shape the shit, it's just crazy. But like going to your point even deeper, you had to know. Usong was like, I was like, damn. And it's funny you said the royal family, because I'm like, what, they got their own rota, like the royal family do, because they were like our news corporations, our magazines, our journalists. And at in the very beginning, the one that the journalist in the news group that always stood up to them, the one that Hwang Do-Hee, IBC, that's actually who she went to, because she knew that they were the most balanced and fair, and they never took money from Wusong. Even when they pulled the ads, they were like, okay, we'll put the ads back if they do this and this and this, and they never really met them at that point to get all the ad money back. So it was just like, do they actually own a newspaper? Like, are they fucking Secession and Rupert Murdoch all rolled in one? Like the
No, they
Stone
pay
family.
him like that, like, and yeah, it was a lot. Like it was intense. Like I was just like, you got people in rooms just writing malicious comments
Like
about their opponents.
you saw his troll farm back there with his orange Ferrari. This is what we want you to type. This is what you're going to put out. And
Yeah,
when they were talking about, like, they found the IP address for all the hits, like when they said his account was basically spammed, or I'll call it trolling now, when it was all trolled at once and they all came from the pretty much the same IP address or the same location. I'm like, the fuck, man. So it was just crazy. And I think for us, our generation, part of it is we grew up on that cusp of social media. By the time social media became a thing, I was a fledged adult.
yeah.
I was, younger, but I was a full fledged adult. And having grown up without it, and I've always been a private person where I hate taking pictures. Always been, my mom raised me, what happens in our house stays in our house. Don't tell everybody your business. Don't put it all out in the street. So I've never had that relationship with social media where I felt the need to post every fucking detail of my life. And I'll go and I read comments, but when they become cruel and toxic, I leave. I don't continue reading that shit and feeding into it. when it's about, especially when it's about other people, whether I like them or I don't like them. Like I've seen some shit about the Mango Mussolini. I'm just like, that's not even fucking funny, and I can't even stand that bitch, you know. So it's just, it's just. I think it's just different for this generation, and there's some people who've given into that whole social media thing. But yeah, the Wu Song family, the Song family. I I I don't know if I have words for them. Like pick your poison. Can we say who was the least dangerous of them crazy motherfuckers? Like who was the least? The oldest sister?
The oldest sister. She
Like
was. She didn't know how to She wasn't a strategist.
but if she were a strategist, if she like, could you imagine if she would have just followed, listened to Hwang Do-Hee, if she wasn't so busy trying to be rebellious, like because she was also the most likable, I guess. She probably would have ended up being the most dangerous, you know, and because she was mom's favorite.
I don't think she was
mm,
mom's favorite. I think she was the only biological child of the mom. And I think she played into that where she was able to get away with stuff because the mom treated the mistress daughter like shit. And so that's the only thing that she could hold over her sister because she couldn't hold anything else. The only thing she had going for her was that she was the mom's biological daughter. That's it.
I.e. the favorite, because she wasn't. I think she realized that her other daughter was more like her than she cared to admit, but because she wasn't her bio kid, she wasn't going to give her that favor or those props. Now, if she had been her bio kid, then yeah, that probably would have been her favorite because that bitch was just as crazy. And what was her problem? Did she have a chemical imbalance? Did she like? And I kind of think the story about her having cancer, I kind of think that was true, and she didn't tell anybody because of when they showed her hair thinning at the beginning and her bald spot. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, I know. I don't believe it was true, but
I'm like, yeah. I mean, okay.
because remember
I
she said, though he said, I will do whatever is necessary. If we got to pull out some hair, if we got to make it look thinning and stuff like that, like they were willing to do what was necessary in order for her to get off for her bad behavior. So, like, because when they took the picture, they purposely had the photographers take the picture of the middle of her head. And I was just like, huh. Like, I feel like that was all a setup.
see. I don't know because the scene before that when she was like, she's trying to get my bald spots, like when she because when she went in there, it was like I guess she was asleep or she was in the makeup chair and the lady was trying to spray on the hair filler and she was like, but it's cold, and she woke me up, and so I'm thinking, and she was like, well, I was trying to cover her bald spots,
No,
and
she was trying to
so
cover her thinning because she was
her
old.
thinning spots.
Yeah.
She wasn't old.
Well, I mean,
She
she wasn't
wasn't old enough
old.
to. She wasn't old enough to be thinning, and unless she's just being crazy and fucking stressed out, she was pulling out her
Yeah,
hair.
that's
But
honestly what I think it was. I don't think she had cancer. I think she played that in order to get away with it.
and see, just because of that one scene, I agree with you. It wouldn't surprise me either way. It's one of those things where it's like, will we ever know if it's true? And just because of that one scene with the hair, I'm like, huh, is the bitch finally telling the truth for once in her life? Like, you know. But yeah, she was masterful. Now that she was batshit crazy. Like when her and her husband, God, I forgot what they were talking about. But in the bathroom, at that one time when you thought they were going to have a moment, and you thought, okay, they are human. Like you thought they were having a moment, and she takes that toothbrush. No, she takes that makeup brush and she stabs him in the hand through the hand with it. I'm like, this bitch is fucking psychotic.
Well, so was her husband, so they were a match made in heaven or hell.
Match made hell. Yeah, her husband was psychotic, and they did a good job. I have to admit, they did a good job at the very beginning of making us think he was the one sane person. how I thought it was going to go is I thought him and Do-Hee before, I thought they were going to end up having an affair. I thought maybe he was going to hit on her. I thought, that they were like, just because he played that role of the outsider and that innocent so well. And
Mm-hmm.
then it was like, and then it didn't take long for that facade to just crumble. I'm like, oh, he played it too well. This motherfucker is crazy. But
I
did you
agree.
did you suspect it was 50-50. They also did a good job of making it. I was never 100% sure that whatever her name was, was it I am it whatever
Ilson.
it Ilson, yes. I was never too sure that Illy, see, yeah, I'm giving her a nickname. I was never too sure that Illy committed suicide. I'm like, because she seemed so defiant and so sure, and it was just like for her to jump off the building. I knew the body was coming. I did. That didn't surprise me, but I was like, eh. And so I was like, did she? It was always in the back of my mind that someone else was on that building with her. I didn't know if it was the wife. I didn't know if it was the mother. I didn't know if the mother had one of the security guards do it. But I was never 100% sold on her taking her own life. And when I found out it was Peck, I was like, oh, that makes perfect sense. And then I thought his other mistress side piece number two, I'm like, you stupid. I mean, she was smart for having her plans and her backup plans, but I'm like, dude, you playing checkers and they playing chess, like 5-dimensional chess. You are no match. No matter how smart you think you are no match for this entire batshit fucking crazy family. Like, so were you surprised that he killed
um,
Ilsa?
no. And so here's the reason why. Throughout the show, I've watched so many K dramas. Okay, so many K dramas that there were very similar scenes to other shows that I've watched. So when I saw the whole scene where he gets accused of sexual assault and he denies it, and I was just like, oh, he did that, because it
Yeah.
reminded me of a scene from this show Why Her, which was really great. I recommend everyone watch it if you have a chance. um in that is how that show starts as well. When I mean very similar to Why Her, and how Why Her starts with their drama, the only difference was the woman was a lawyer, and but she gets raped, and when she goes to talk about it, the lawyer rips into her, makes her feel like such less than, and then all of a sudden she's leaving work and the girl falls from the roof, and you find out she was pushed. And I was just like, oh, I said he killed her. Like, that was my thought. I said, because it was when I mean scene for scene, it was so similar, very little difference. I was just like, it's so similar. So I wasn't surprised on the fact of finding out that he ended up killing her, and that he ended up raping her at that, or that her friend her so-called friend ended up betraying her because she thought that she had an in. You know where her downfall was? She got pregnant, and she thought for some reason that baby would be the be all and end all, and she must have forgot that he wasn't the unsung group. He married into it. He
Hmm.
wasn't he wasn't the he wasn't the son. He was the son-in-law. She must have forgot that he ain't had the money. The mom had the money. She must have
And
forgot that.
she forgot who the fuck she was dealing with, because it was like I said, it was like no matter how smart you were not smart enough. You were not Hwang Do-Hee. Like, you could not handle them, you know. And it was just like, dude. And then the mom, she was a motherfucker. Like, you brought the dude who killed his daddy here to groom him to be the politician that y'all couldn't turn his daddy into. Like, damn, you a cold hearted bitch. Like, like I said, that family, it was pick your poison. They were all fucking horrible. And the way But my favorite part, and one of the things I loved when Oh Kun Suk, when she finally unleashed Wang Do-Hee. Like she was still kicking ass on the leash. But
Mm-hmm.
when she unleashed her, and I hate saying that because they kept referring to Hwang Do-Hee as a mutt or whatever, so it seems like a horrible metaphor at this point. But when she took her off the leash and just let her do her, when she finally said, "Okay, do you whatever it takes, I don't fucking care." Like they went too far when they went after her son. When she finally let her go and took the shackles off, oh baby, I was like, yeah, this is what I need to see. Like, and I guess that's where it was giving Scandal meets How to Get Away with Murder. I was like, oh, I love it. And so I wanted more of it. I really, really do. All right. You have any favorite scenes, episodes, anything we didn't discuss?
It's not necessarily a favorite scene, but a scene that really broke my heart, I think, and really like, I swear, like I got tears in my eyes. Was when they kidnapped her dad. When they
Oh
kidnapped
God.
yeah, when they kidnapped Do-Hee's dad and left him in the middle of nowhere, not even with a coat, not even with a
And
jacket.
and even old boy asked, like even I forgot his name. Um
Oh, Carl,
Fer-
Carl.
yeah, Ferrari. Morris Ferrari. Even Ferrari asked, "Did you leave him with the jacket?" And she looked and she lied. And I'm like, and because I was like, they did not. I was like, I know I just watched that scene. I didn't rewind it, but I'm like, she just fucking lied. He did not have a jacket. Cause,
Yeah,
and I was
but
just like,
yeah,
yeah,
that
that
that was
that
that was a tough scene to watch. And then when he ends up getting hit, which I think was an actual accident, but he ends up getting hit. He ends up dying, and I think like what made it even more powerful is when she goes and she said, "You kidnapped a man who had the mind of a child and left him in the middle of nowhere to die." And that, like, because you knew that was a point where after she cried her eyes out and she grieved for her dad, and you saw the switch where she was like, "Oh, you are all going down." She was like, "You're all going down because y'all think family is up for up to touch." I said, "Okay, okay, I got you." But I love that. I love the progression of it, and like I said, the sisterhood that was shown through that, and her finally coming and supporting her when they realized what happened. And even when she revealed it later on in the later episodes to the ex-husband, like I think just the whole thing around her dad, just even though it was kind of background, it still played such a significant role in the story, and in Wang Do-Hee's dedication and her motivation to take that family down, whatever is necessary, even going down herself in order to make sure that they did not survive this bloodbath. And so I think it was a very significant scene. May not be my favorite, but it was definitely a significant scene in the movie, in the TV show.
yeah. One of my favorite has to do with, I'm gonna call her the Paul Wall wannabe, the people's champ. You're not a big hip hop fan, never mind. All my Paul Wall fans know who I'm talking about. But the people's representative or whatever she called herself, right? She
So
was
many.
just as, yeah, she was just as dirty as everybody else. And she played the role. She was, and she proved that she was a pretty damn masterful at playing the game too. I think, and I think that she'd had so many other people behind the scenes do her dirty work for her, because even, and that's what I said, it seemed like her ex-husband, he seemed a little shocked at how dirty his hands were going to get in this political battle. But I knew she was gone. Like the moment she thought, okay, this is where she draws the line, I knew she was gone when she cut off her daughter's hair. That for me was like a game changer. Like she was not above doing whatever it takes. And then when gosh, what was it, when he made the recording, the conversation that they had when he made the recording, and she was like, Oh, when they actually had proof that they were innocent, she's like, "You're gonna let two innocent people take the fall." And when he recorded her with that, I was like, so to me, even though she seemed insignificant, I think those were game changers too, because it their focus was no longer divided um, between the two, and her husband now could come in and work on Do Hung's come in and work with Hwang Do-Hee. And again, I think that would have given us a missed opportunity to have a conversation so we could get a little bit more clarity on their former relationship, you know. So, but yeah, it was really funny how everyone thought he had some sort of control over his ex-wife, and I kept saying, if he had any sway or control over her, don't y'all think they would still be married? Maybe.
Probably.
But yeah, so I loved it, and I they set us up for a season two. Would you want a season two?
um I don't know. I think I'm on the fence about it. I think I'm on the fence. I know how they left it open ended, but there are a lot of K dramas that are left open ended like that never get a season two, like Vagabond, which I'm still waiting for my season two of Vagabond.
Yes,
But I think there are a lot of them. I'm on the fence. I'd be open to watching a season two just to see how it would progress. Um, but am I necessarily looking forward to it? I don't know. I don't know. I'm on the fence. I'm on the fence.
I'm with you, but because of the scandal and How to Get Away with Murder vibes, I would. And if it's a completely different case, you know, whatever this new dude, whoever he is, whatever his issues, maybe check in with Oh Sung Cook or O as the mayor of Seoul. Um, can mayors not seek re-election? Because they're like, it's only 2 years. So I know I went off on a side tangent, but I was like, can she seek re-election, or is
She
she just
can.
wanted? Oh, okay, because the way Mama was talking to her, but the way she was just like, well, you know, she said, yeah, I got 2 years, so I'm only gonna waste like 2 months with you, and then I'm moving on. I was like, okay, but you know, so if we checked in with just to see her as the mayor, how she was doing, that's fine, but maybe bring back the investigator dude, you know, and her ex husband, just to, like, I think those characters would be good in a second season too. Like they could carry over. Um, I don't know. Maybe it might tie into the logistics company because with the two sons that were left, they were down, but they definitely weren't out because that one was too fucking crazy not to try to be like a phoenix and rebuild the evil empire from the ashes, you know. So I don't know, but yeah, I could go either way, but I really, really enjoyed it. Okay, so let's rank this puppy. What you ranking? There I go with the dog. Got bear on the brain. um, what are you rating? How many popcorns are you giving Queenmaker?
I'm gonna give Queenmaker 3.25 popcorns. I was entertained. It starts off slow. When it gets kind of in the middle, it gets a little redundant. And the ending definitely makes up for it. It's fast paced. You want to know what's going to happen. You're sitting there, you're binge watching it because you want to see how it ends. So as it got more intense, the stakes raised. But yeah. So I'm gonna give it a 3.25 popcorns, and let's see where it goes from here. What about you, Eddie?
I'm gonna give it a 4. I really enjoyed it, and like I said, I think it's a throwback to two of my favorite shows, Scandal and How to Get Away with Murder. I can't stress it enough. This is the perfect Korean hybrid. It did start slow. I give that to the background, to them trying to set the tone, give us some background about the main players. So, and you're right. In there are parts where it does get a little redundant, where they could have sped some stuff up, or the, instead of spending time on those issues, they could have answered some of the lingering questions we had. But overall, once you get into it, say that second, third episode, once it hits the ground running, and it's the foot on the gas, and it doesn't let up. It may swerve a little bit, but it doesn't take its foot off the gas. So I really, really, really enjoyed the series, and like I said, I'm a little on the fence about season two. I would love to see a season two, but again, Netflix K drama. I'm not going to get my hopes up, But I think they could do it. I really do think they could have something kind of special with this one, um, and just the premise of it. Okay, well, got anything else to add?
No, that's it.
We're good. All right. Ooh, excuse me. Sorry. That does it for this week's episode of the Popcorn Wind Down. Please be sure to like, listen, follow, and comment anywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts, including us. You can also keep up to date on the latest in entertainment and pop culture news, as well as other amazing kernels of pop culture goodness at thepopcornwinddown.com. That's it. That's the plug. Pop it up, pop, pop, pop.
Pop, 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 pop.
I'm in the process of updating the website now, getting it back on track, getting our socials back on track. So, thank you, thank you, thank you. Um, as always, be sure to join us next week when we review The Covenant starring Jake Gyllenhaal, currently in theaters. I've heard amazing things about this movie. I am really looking forward to it. Have you seen it yet?
I did.
Oh, okay. Oh, you was excited. All right. I haven't seen it yet. I've been sick, so I am going to check it out before we watch. Obviously, before we talk about it next week. So, um, just tell me one thing. JG, sexy?
Ah,
Okay.
not in see, no, but not in a bad way. Let me say that.
Okay.
Not
Okay.
in a
Okay.
bad way.
Okay. We'll revisit that because y'all know how I feel. Y'all know Jake G is on my list, so y'all know how I feel about Mr. Jake Gyllenhaal. You gotta be special if you got a whole Taylor Swift album dedicated. Let me stop. There I go being messy. Okay. So uh, tune in. Until next time. I'm Eddie.
And I'm Tammy. Bye.
Peace.